Hey guys, welcome back to CXO Conversations here live at IFF 2026. Today I am what I would define a very special guest because he has been a friend of IFF since the beginning. I'm here with Rob Okello, CEO and co-founder of Maarifasasa. Rob, welcome to CXO.
Thank you so much, Matteo. It's such a pleasure to be here. Third year in a row at IFF, and it's such a wonderful pleasure always to just be a part of the conversations and really everything that is happening here at IFF.
There is not many that can, as a speaker that has done the whole tree actually, and you and I have been sharing this passion about capacity building, and this is where you have been involved for the past 3 years. So let's give us a little bit your story, and also Maarifasasa, what the company does.
Absolutely. Thank you once again, Matteo. And so my name is Robert, as you mentioned, and I'm the co-founder of Maarifasasa. Maarifasasa actually is a Swahili word, which means knowledge now. And it really speaks to our Pan-African, vision of unleashing the continent's potential, which lies in its young people, by ensuring that they have the skills and the knowledge to participate actively in today's digital economy. So because of that, we think of ourselves as a Pan-African workforce development company that not only does training of young people, but really ensures that they have the skills to be placed into actual work in the global digital economy with companies all around the world. And this journey for me began from a very personal story. I grew up in a small village in northern Uganda, where northern Uganda, for many people who don't know, was a region in Uganda that was affected by war for a very long time, for about 20 years. And that meant that, as opposed to other parts of the country, the region lagged behind in terms of development, in terms of access to education and to opportunity. So a lot of us were playing catch-up game, growing up. The best schools were all destroyed because of war. The teachers had fled and gone to other parts of the country to seek better opportunities. And so as a result of that, I grew up in a context where I saw so much potential in my fellow peers going in school. And it became very clear to me that talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not, because a lot of us had to really work twice as hard as anyone else to just prove ourselves and to be able to access opportunities elsewhere. I almost dropped out of school myself because my parents couldn't afford, secondary education. But it was not until I got a scholarship that saw me moving from my home village in northern Uganda to Kampala for the very first time. And being in a big city, and I'll tell you, Matteo, when I got to Kampala—
How old were you?
I was about 13.
Okay.
I thought
by yourself, or you had families, I imagine.
So here's a story. I remember, getting on a call with the head teacher of the school that had given me the bursary, and they told me that, tell your parents that for you to get this opportunity, you need to be at the school tomorrow by 8 a.m. To get your admissions. Now, to just give you context, my hometown is about 350 kilometers away from the city. It was about 4 p.m. in the evening. There is only one bus leaving from Lira to Kampala.
That probably takes 10 hours to get there.
Exactly. At the time, the roads were so bad, it took about 7 hours, right? So I left and I got to Kampala at around midnight, just a few minutes past midnight, on my own. And I remember my dad—
13 years old.
13 years old. I had no travel bag. My dad got his briefcase that I used for going to work and said, put whatever fits in here. And he asked me, do you think if you put in the bus, you'll make it to Kampala? And I said, if the bus makes it, I guess I'll make it too, right? So that was my first time in Kampala. And I went to this school and, did an interview, and I got the scholarship that changed my life from dropping out of school to really continuing my education, right? So this, I think, for me, is really what informs the story of Maarifasasa. That scholarship changed my life. A few years later, I got another scholarship opportunity that saw me go for my last 2 years of high school in Norway. And then I ended up in the United States of America for my university studies, right? And looking at all of these journeys, for me, the biggest game changer was that there were people who believed in me and in my potential and invested in it, right? And that gave me access to all of these things. But as I was nearing the end of my university studies, I began to ask myself, what do I want to do with my life after this? But I was really also reflecting from a point of privilege because, so much had been invested in me. And I'd seen all of these opportunities, During my time in the States, I came across the massive open online courses, and I really began to realize that the power of the internet in terms of democratizing access, not only to education, but to opportunities. And that is really what I think laid the groundwork for starting Maarifasasa. But Matteo, here's another, I think, a key moment for me. And it happened in Italy, in your home country.
Okay.
Around 2016, I was on a summer study abroad program from my university. Went to Rome and we spent time in Italy. But during my time in Italy, especially in Rome, I met a lot of young people from Africa. And a lot of them had actually crossed over through the Mediterranean,
yes,
risking everything in search for better opportunities. And just hearing their stories, it really broke my heart. And I asked myself, how bad must things be on the continent for someone to say, I'm going to risk everything? In Africa, sometimes we have the phrase that says, if I die, I die, which means that I will go and nothing will stop me, right? And that experience in Italy was really, I think, the last straw that broke the horse's back. That's
I
when
suppose
I got the
that
conviction.
a lot of these guys in Rome, they actually went to school and they were just,
yes,
they were selling little goodies or souvenirs.
Exactly.
But they actually left a real potential job in their country, right?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I met a young man from Ghana. He had a master's degree in mathematics, and he was selling flowers on the streets of Rome. The people who got in there got all his documents, so he couldn't do anything until he had to unback his documents and pay them by selling flowers on the streets. So that experience really broke my heart. And that is really what made me come back to Uganda, where my hometown is, to really begin to lay the rails for building Maarifasasa. And our goal from the very beginning has been very simple. What is it that stops most of our young people from accessing these opportunities? Because a lot of them have gone to school as well. And that's when you begin to realize that the biggest challenge, or perhaps the root causes to unemployment on the continent, is a skills mismatch. A lot of our universities are running outdated curriculum. The skills that are being churned out do not match the demands of the market, right? And so we saw a gap in the market, but also there was a market in that gap, which was to see that how do we quickly design curricula that equips these young people with the skills that they need to start earning a living right away, not just getting a certificate. Across Africa, there seems to be this obsession with certificates, right? And we want to change that mindset as well, because the certificate won't put food on the table for you. It won't get you a job. It's you being able to demonstrate that you can create and unlock value. And that means you have to have a tangible skill. And that is really what Maarifasasa has been all about. And today we're on a very bold mission. Our goal is to work towards unlocking 1 million earning opportunities for young people across the continent. This means that teaching you a practical skills of software engineering, all the way to even more basic stuff. Today, AI is changing everything, right? But unfortunately, most of our people are still just using AI like another Google, right? When they can leverage these powerful tools to create meaningful value that actually unlocks earning opportunities for them.
You know that with me, Rob, you're like a pushing. It's not even a door. It's not that you're pushing an open door, because actually, and I'm very proud, and you have been very instrumental in helping us to do so. Timepledge started in Uganda, and now there are like 48 data scientists from Makerere that did the course. And now we are, I think we are at the last phase of placing them either in internship or at least there is no guarantee, right? And also what I also learned is that it's not because you put a young talent at third or fourth year of university in a 6-month course that he or she will have a guaranteed job, because attitude matters, mindset matters. Maybe they have logistic constraints. Maybe they will still have to do 1 year university and fight to find the money for it, even if our courses are free, of course. But sometimes the rest of the school is not. So Uganda is actually a very interesting sort of ecosystem where you have one of the largest African universities.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this information is checked, is where the number of talents that are coming out from the university are way more than the actual opportunities that there are, right?
Absolutely.
Because especially in tech,
Yes.
yet the opportunities are rarely fulfilled with local talents, especially the most senior ones, because it's a bit of like a chicken and egg. They feel that the preparation of the students is not good enough, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what is the model of Maarifasasa, because you're asking the private sector to actually play a role,
right,
and to be sort of the funder of the talent that they will hire,
right?
Or they ask you, which is one of your models, I think. No, I know because you know each other for such a long time.
Right.
That there are companies that pay you to upskill their talent, which is also a smart move because they need to invest the money, and it's much better to give that money to you than to an expensive school or university, that will cost 3 times but be 3 times less effective. So tell us, walk us through the model a bit more.
Absolutely. Now, that's a very good question in terms of the model, because we have been pivoting a lot, and really refining and understanding what works, what doesn't work. And it's been a long learning journey for us. But we're at a place today where I think we have found the sweet spot. Now, typically, this is how our model works. First, if someone goes to the Maarifasasa platform today, they're going to find a number of courses there that they can enroll and start taking right away.
And that's free.
And that is free. So we have free, and then we have a couple of those that are highly subsidized, $10 here and there, right? Just some skin in the game. Now, once someone completes that course, it's just for us to be able to determine how serious they are. Can they actually get something done and complete?
Do they earn points in the Maarifasasa?
Yes, so they'll get, we are basically doing a scoring at the back end.
Okay.
Yeah, to determine a couple of things, So the trainings are this self-paced, but there are a couple of live sessions there. So we're taking attendance, commitment, the ability to complete some of the tasks and all of that. Those who complete that get into our talent accelerator. And this is now where the rubber really hits the road. It's a 12 weeks program, very intense, specialized in a particular area. And the talent accelerators are typically, paid for either by our corporate partners who are looking to hire talent in particular areas. So they could say, we want maybe web developers, who want software engineers, right? And they will pay us to basically deliver the training for a given cohort for them, right?
Okay.
We also work with development partners who are also focused on ensuring the transition of young people into work. A case in point, we are running a program today in Uganda with the MasterCard Foundation called the 10X program, and we're a delivery partner for that as well. It's focusing on young women. Again, the same approach, we are paid to deliver the training such that at the end of it, these young women can transition into work. Right. Now, whoever goes to the talent accelerator then gets into our talent pool. Now, our talent pool is what unlocks our core revenue model, which is where...
And of course, over time, ensure the self-sustainability of your model,
Exactly. So we are today building a network of corporate partners, companies, startups all around the world who basically are seeking for particular skills and talent, right? Today, we see high demand for a lot of AI engineers, but of course, full stack, back end, front end, at all levels. Okay, so our talent pool is a mixture of all of these sort of people. There are also startups who need someone to do, for example, the digital marketing, right? The busy executives are looking for virtual assistants, but the virtual assistant marketplace has changed dramatically because of AI. So we are no longer seeing people hiring just a traditional virtual assistant, but they're hiring someone who can build AI agents for them, for example, to automate a lot of the back office operations, right? And the biggest opportunity for us from terms of the hiring side comes from particular countries because of their unique challenges. An interesting one, which is today becoming one of our biggest markets, is Japan.
Wow, okay.
And here's why Japan seems to be a very good fit for us, especially for the Ugandan talent. As you rightfully mentioned at the beginning, Uganda today has one of the youngest populations in the world, maybe the second youngest, actually. The average age is 16, right? Japan has the exact opposite problem.
Okay.
They have one of the most elderly populations in the world. In fact, 36 million Japanese above the age of 65 are still in the workforce, right? And so a lot of Japanese companies are looking for talent elsewhere to fill a lot of the roles, especially in engineering.
Are they remote roles, or people are just called and go there?
They're remote primarily. So the first entry is actually remote. After the remote, once you've understood, of course, as you mentioned at the beginning, the soft skills, the culture, and all of that, then you'll see people beginning to transition, actually going physically in Japan. So I know a couple of engineers who are working physically in Japan now as well, right? But we have seen that there are countries out there today, because of the demographic challenges they're having, the workforce is shrinking, they're beginning to look outside. And I think this presents a massive opportunity for Africa in general, because we still have one of the youngest and fastest growing populations in the world.
Absolutely.
Right? Yes. But for us to tap into that potential and truly unlock the power of that, the work that you are doing at Timepledge and we are doing at Maarifasasa becomes the bedrock to unlocking that potential. We have to understand what are the needs of these companies that are hiring, what kind of skills do they need, and figure out how do we continuously refine our training models to deliver the quality of talent at the speed that is required by these companies, and to do that at scale, which is what we're figuring out right now. Yeah.
Rob, there is actually a project that I've been discussing about with my podcasters,
right?
Because yesterday we recorded an episode with someone who has a cyber security firm that controls, that makes compliance and AML into blockchain transactions. Okay.
Wow.
And it's an Amsterdam-based company, and but they have, of course, is a remote first, so they have developers all over the world.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, it was not during the podcast. Actually, during the podcast, I sort of announced the idea, but we talked about it outside, right? And I said, listen, we should find the best 100 hackers in Africa each year.
Right.
And I actually checked. Hopefully, I will register it before the podcast is over. But like afrihackers.org is free.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'm taking afrihackers.org, and what I would love to do is to partner with people like yourself.
Right.
I don't want to own the idea. It has to be an industry sort of initiative.
Right.
And why is important to find the best 100 hackers? One, because cybersecurity with all these new payment rails is becoming super important.
Absolutely.
Second, because there is, the best hackers today, they are very often, if not often, sort of focused on bad things. Right?
That's right.
Hackers and scammers are often, in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Whilst I believe that, especially in a remote fashion, there is an enormous need, for this type of capabilities. Absolutely. For companies all over the world.
Yeah.
And also, young people, a hackers is good is already at 16 years old. Right. You can immediately find. Absolutely. Because usually these guys or ladies are self-taught.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so, they are dropouts and, just very good, in using, these type of new tools. So first of all, what do you think of the idea? And second, can we partner live and decide it in this podcast? Right. We'll partner up with this?
Absolutely. I'll start with the second one. The answer is yes, right? I believe strongly in partnerships and collaborations, especially, the problem that we're solving fundamentally here, think about the youth unemployment, unlocking opportunities, is what I call a wicked problem. Okay, it's a wicked problem because there is no one solution to it, but also it's so massive that no single entity can solve it on their own. And the only way to attack these problems is by partnering and collaboration. So the answer to the second question is a big yes, right?
Amazing.
Now, in terms of what I think about the idea, I think it's a fantastic idea, because if you think, on the first day, that was, on Tuesday, we were, talking about where training should belong. Should it be at universities? Should it be boot camps? Should it be corporate trainings? And I think for particular skill sets, certain avenues and platforms are much better. I think going about to say, okay, if we want cybersecurity experts, we need to think about, white hat hackers, right? Ethical hackers in that sense. And maybe the best approach is basically organizing this sort of, physical hackathons and boot camps, and we give these guys challenges, right? And the best teams out of that to take them through specialized trainings and all of that, and then they become part of the 100. And I think that is a brilliant model. It's fast enough, it's responsive in terms of, how quick we can be able to deliver on this. And I think I like the philosophy with which you're approaching it as well, which is, a partnership-based model and saying, hey, listen, I don't want to own this, but can we collaboratively work on this? So you have your first partner from Uganda in Maarifasasa already.
Amazing, yeah. Amazing. Yeah. So let's maybe, and there are so many conversations we could have this, but we need to wrap up because it's incredible, but we've been talking already for the past 25 minutes, and it seems that we just started.
Right.
So tell us a little bit, in terms of what difference do you see in nurturing talents? Because you don't work only in Uganda, right? Corporates are global, right? Yeah. And very often the decision making doesn't come, typically in Uganda if it's a global corporate, right? So do you see that the decision power of this talent work,
right,
it's today delocalized, so local entities can actually, just sharing your experience, can actually decide? Or if you're talking about big corporates like, Shell or Total, or the decision comes from headquarters, what's your experience? I'm just curious if you could share a little bit your selling experience, with the corporates, which type of conversation you have, and also what triggers them.
Right. Absolutely. So from our experience, corporates and especially multinationals that tend to have local offices in country, in many cases, a lot of them have a decentralized decision-making mechanism where, the country CEO can make a call because they understand their unique context and their unique needs better than, the global head office, for example. So we have seen that there's a shift where the local country offices for a lot of the multinationals are being empowered more to make some of the specific decisions, especially when it comes to hiring and talent development, right? But also, there are certain corporates still that have a very centralized decision-making system where, the country office will automatically have a buy-in, but they need approvals maybe from the global head office, right? Or from the Africa, headquarter office. And so we are seeing that both of those models are still in play, but we are seeing a serious shift towards, the latter, where country offices are being more empowered with the buying decisions. Now, from a selling perspective, we tend to, understand. So if you're approaching, a corporate X, you want to understand what the dynamic is. Do they have, a very sort of semi-autonomous country office, or the decisions are coming from HQ and then trickling down? And once you understand that, then we know where to approach first, right? But typically, we tend to approach the conversations from either side. Go to HQ and ask them to make an introduction to the country office, or approach country office and then also approach HQ and say, by the way, we already have this conversation and so and so. Should we? And that speeds up the process in terms of what the selling process looks like. But maybe last as well, in terms of the delivery, something you hinted on earlier, which is the unique challenges we have on the continent. Physical, digital, access to resources, internet, computers. We have over the years seen that the model that works for Africa has to be a combination of physical and digital. Okay. Finding the next, what would perhaps describe as phygital, right? Physical and digital. In our case, we have set up digital impact hubs, and we've been experimenting this with a lot of partners in Uganda. Late last year, we signed an MOU with the Toro Kingdom, for example, to establish a physical digital impact hub that would ensure that young people within their kingdom who do not have access to laptops, who don't have, who can't afford internet, can walk into a physical training space fully equipped with all, fast internet and computers, and can access the trainings from there. When they get work, they can actually work from there as well. And after working a few gigs here and there, they have some money to buy their own laptop, and then they're set up. So this physical digital nexus is, I think, a model that a lot of people doing work in this space need to explore. Unfortunately, sometimes the investors don't want to get into the infrastructure, investment and all of that. Yeah. But that's where development partners come in. That's where governments come in to subsidize that. So the investors can come on scaling the digital, platforms that ensure massive access at scale.
Rob, you've been, last question. You have been doing this for a few years now. You must have a good amount of stories of lives that you lifted up.
Yes.
And all of a sudden they came back and either helped you or came back into your organization as new force to help.
Yes.
Or also like the fact that their lives were their gratitude for their life being uplifted drove them to a place where they can give back. Absolutely. If you have one story that you want to share, I would love to.
Absolutely. The first that comes to mind immediately is our current head of operations and partnerships, Andrew Alaka. Andrew and I, know each other from way back from childhood. We went to school together, primary and all of that. But Andrew finished his university education around the same time I finished, and he couldn't find a job, So, I sent a link to him to do one of our courses online. It was in web development. And ever since then, he did the course, he finished it, he went and upgraded, and he just rose through the ranks. He now joined the company a couple of years ago, and today serves as our head of operations, ensuring that we can scale this impact and ensure that there are more people across the continent just like him who can access this life-changing opportunity. So there's so many stories like Andrew, but Andrew comes to mind because now he's at the heart of actually, making sure that more people can access the same opportunity that changed his life.
Thank you so much, Robert, to have... I think that the way you talk, what you say, the passion you put in your words, I think that for someone who will listen to the podcast, they would totally understand that behind every African entrepreneur that does an impact, let's say, service back to the people, there is this fire, right, that you communicate so well. So thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Matteo. And thank you for giving me the platform. It's always a pleasure talking with you. Thank you.
I know, guys, that Rob will be with us at IFF 2027. For now, CXO Conversations at IFF 2026. And this is a wrap.